Hello and welcome to another episode of Pastor's Library. My name is Stephen Redman and this is the channel where we talk about everything to do with theology books, whether they be books on a reading list for your seminary course, your bachelor's or master's degrees, or whether you've just seen a book in a Christian bookstore or on your vicar's bookshelf and want to know more. So today we're going to do what we always do, which is talk about a particular theme or idea. And if you like it, please give us a thumbs up and remember to click subscribe and click on the bell. And all that does is it makes sure that you will be notified when we release another episode. So today I want us to talk about a particular author. He's not perhaps particularly as prolific as some of the other authors I've talked about so far, but I have found him very helpful indeed and very, very accessible. He's an academic professor of Old Testament in Philadelphia, so he has credentials. But the remarkable thing about him is that his academic work reads so easily off the page. I can really commend his writing to you. He is David T. Lamb, and I discovered him when I found this book, Prostitutes and Polygamists, which is the sort of book title that made me think, what's this about? It's also the sort of book title that my wife says, what have you got that on your bookshelf for? But what this does is it addresses some of those awkward things that we maybe have been brought up to accept in our Bibles that maybe do not mesh with what we understand as the Christian life or even a religious life that we see in the lives of people in the Bible. So it talks about polygamy, it talks about Abraham's wives, talks about Solomon's wives, it talks about prostitutes in the Bible and adultery and rape in the Bible. Obviously, I recognise that some of these subjects can be a bit triggering for some people, but they are issues that pastors and church leaders and Bible teachers need to be aware of. And I have to say that I felt that David Lamb did a fabulous job with this book, teaching on issues which are without question sensitive and difficult. They are the sort of issue that many church leaders go all year without even hinting to. And I just felt that David Lamb was very appropriate in his treatment of the issues in here. And I can't imagine any Christian with a decent reading age that wouldn't get something from this. It really is an excellent book. So that's Prostitutes and Polygamists. I then discovered God Behaving Badly, which is another one of his books. And because he's an Old Testament man, he faces a lot of these questions about, oh, Jesus, the God of love, different to the Old Testament angry, wrathful God. He's tried to address that in God Behaving Badly so that we can understand the context of some of the things that we read on the pages of our Old Testament. I found that absolutely brilliant. I have to say, I have read a couple of other people who have done something good in this sphere. It deserves the award for this one. It's a very, very good book. Now, the latest book of his that I've just read is The Emotions of God. Now, some of you will be aware of the term that is often used of God, which is impassible, not impossible. But like impossible, I tend to believe myself that nothing shall be impassable with God. The basic term means to be emotionless and to be distant from human passions. I don't find any reason in the Bible to feel that way about God. And what Lamb does here is he goes through all the biblical evidence. Well, I don't think he even goes through all of it. He goes through a large measure of the biblical evidence. explaining what the words mean in our Bibles. Obviously, a word that may be translated anger in our Old Testament is translated from Hebrew, and that may not necessarily be an exact word for word translation. It might have a slightly broader meaning or a slightly deeper meaning. And he deals with all of these things. And he also gives us context. Now, I have to say that I really have found this to be an excellent book. It's just been my latest bedside reading, actually, and I really think it is highly recommendable. And it just deals with everything like anger, wrath, jealousy. Of course, it deals with love. That's the sort of end of the book, really. It summarises at the end the emotions of the people of God. There's an appendix comparing the emotions of God. I think has 7 emotions it deals with. But like some of his other writings, this comes with group notes so that you can read this in maybe a home group and get a lot from it. So that's an excellent book. Now, you read all of those and you think, well, those are sometimes specialist but maybe more popularist books. But here is a commentary by David T. Lamb, and it's in the Story of God series, and it's 1 to 2 Kings. And clearly his primary speciality is in that area of Old Testament study. In fact, I think his PhD thesis was about Jehu in Kings. So it's a really good commentary. I actually like the series in general, to be frank. But for example, in this book, he describes this as a book about how to learn from other people's failures, which is a good angle on 1 and 2 Kings. And he for example, goes into a lengthy discussion of the anger of God in 1 and 2 Kings. And he comes up with 3 very positive summaries of the anger of God, which if I were to tell you now, I think I might be having to put the word spoiler at the bottom of the page. But it's a great thing to read in a commentary about Kings, is to see this linkage to God's anger. Now, of course, you might say, well, he's just written that book about emotions, hasn't he? This, I think, was maybe the book before. And it's true that he has themes in his study which keep coming up in his books. But I have to say, this is possibly the easiest commentary to read on 1 and 2 Kings that I have ever gazed at. I really felt I was getting a lot from it. Maybe like you, most of my time with commentaries results in me glancing, opening up at a verse or a chapter to study it and read it and go away, go to the next commentary and so on. But I found this very engaging to the point where just when I was looking at one thing, I found an hour and a half had passed. And I'd really sort of gone on and widened my study because I just found him easy to read. And really, isn't it just wonderful when you find someone who's easy to read? So I recommend David Lamb to you as someone who is easy to read, someone who clearly has a wide understanding of Old Testament ideas and concepts and contexts. And I hope that you, like me, you will engage with him. I would like to read his thesis. Currently it's a little bit expensive. It's on my watch list. If I get to read that sometime, I might come back to you again on David Lamb. But all I can say to you is, it may be a name you haven't engaged with, but he's definitely worth a look. And I hope that you get a lot from David Lamb. And I hope that this helps you. If it has done, please give us a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe and click on the bell. And I'll be with you next time on Pastor's Library. Until then, God bless. Bye.